am Laura Fisher, and I thank my fellow classmates for your time and your attention today. When Professor Rose asked us to make this first presentation about someone from history we would most like to meet, I immediately thought of Harry S. Truman, our 33rd president. Most of us know that Harry Truman was famous for coining the phrase, "the buck stops here." You may not know how significant that statement really is. It seems shamefully that kind of courage is almost lost on other recent contemporary generations. Because he was that kind of man and because he faced indespicable decisions in his leadership career, I'd like to ask President Truman how and where did he get that kind of character and courage? I have always had a fascination for World War II, and I guess I could have chosen to meet and to speak to Franklin Roosevelt or morbidly even Adolf Hitler, but I chose President Truman in effect for his actions because they ended World War II. Let me give you some brief context. Truman was president from 1945 to 1953. In April of 1945, Harry Truman had been FDR's vice president only 82 days when Roosevelt died of a massive brain hemorrhage. He had not been actively involved in Roosevelt's affairs. As a matter of fact, they had almost never spoken. When Mrs. Roosevelt called Harry Truman to tell him that the president had passed, his first reaction was to ask her, "What can I do for you?" And she historically has been recorded as having said, "What can you do for me? Harry, it is you that is in trouble now." And what she was trying to say is that he was woefully regarded as unprepared, uneducated, unable to lead the country in the greatest world war of all time. When he addressed his Congress for the first time, which was actually Roosevelt's Congress, he is quoted as having said, "Boys, if you've ever prayed, pray for me now." I would like to talk to Harry S. Truman because he was the man that will be remembered for having dropped the first nuclear bombs of mass destruction. Those two bombs killed 140,000 the first time, 80,000 the second time. And in retrospect, what we now know, and perhaps Truman knew part of this, perhaps he knew only portions of it, there were 60 million people killed in World War II. 20 million of them were Allies. When Truman wrote his memoirs years later, he said, "I knew when I ended the war that I did what I had to do, and faced with the decision to do it again, I could do it again." Addressing his cabinet for the very last time, he took responsibility for the decisions that had to be made. So when we're talking about the buck stops here, I guess that I want to ask him, how was he able to muster the courage to make those kinds of decisions? Was it a matter of his faith? Who did he turn to? Who did he talk to? What are his thoughts and feelings at the time, at that cataclysmic time in history? What got him through such very, very difficult and dark times? Thank you very much.